The Salem Witch Trials. Salem was settled in 1626 by the Puritans of Massachusetts Bay Colony. The witch trial started 66 years later. In February 1692, a few girls in Salem village began to experiment with magic. Afterwards, these girls developed a mental illness called hysteria. They began to have unusual fits by falling on the floor and screaming. Their parents brought them to many doctors, and the only answer the doctors had was that the girls were bewitched. People began to call these girls the afflicted girls. Soon they said they were being tortured by witches, and the Salem witch trials started. In the 1600s, witchcraft was put in 3 categories. When a white witch was experimenting with magic, it was for harmless purposes. When a black witch was experimenting with magic, it was to commit hardships and injury. Contact with the devil was the most extreme form of witchcraft. Testing for witches. One of the most infamous tests was the touch test. In this test, the accused witch would have a blindfolded bystander touch her or him to see if they were a witch. If the blindfolded person began to freak out, then the accused was in fact a witch. The water test. The water test was the second way to find out if a person was a witch. This test was widely used in Europe, but not much in Salem. The water test was that the accused would be thrown into the water. If he or she drowned, they were innocent. If they floated, he or she was guilty. The accusers were the girls of Salem village. These girls were lying, and once they started lying about witches, they could not stop, probably because of their fear of being punished because of experimenting with magic. The trials were basically quite simple. It was based on whether the jury believed the word of the accused or the accuser. Punishment was severe during the witch trials. You could be hanged or put in prison. About 150 people were put in prison. They thought witches could not do magic if he or she wore heavy leg irons. In the end, 24 people died. 19 were executed, 1 was crushed under rocks, and 4 died in prison. Even 2 dogs were killed. Those who did not confess were put to death. Giles Corey was one victim who refused to confess, so he was crushed under heavy rocks. Teshuba was a West Indian slave. She was from Barbados. Reverend Samuel Parris of Salem Village brought her and her husband John Indian to Salem as his servants. Betty, Parris's daughter, and Abigail Williams, her cousin, had begun to have strange fits. Soon other girls were too. Doctors could think of nothing else but that the girls were bewitched. Parris tried asking them who was bewitching them, but they would not speak. Afterwards, they said that Teshuba was bewitching them. At Teshuba's trial, she confessed that she saw the devil and that she was a witch. She was to sign the devil's book, which will mean she is now a servant of the devil. Teshuba also said she saw the signatures of Sarah Good and Sarah Osborne and claimed they were witches too. A few days before her trial, Teshuba's husband John began to have fits, and he too became afflicted. Teshuba spent 13 months in jail until an unknown person paid £7 to free her and then bought her. Most likely the same person bought John. It is unknown what her life was like with her new master. Sarah Good was bad-tempered. She was a beggar, and she also asked for handouts and cursed those who refused her. Sarah Osborne was an elderly woman who had not gone to church in 14 months, a sin in Puritan Massachusetts. She was also bad-tempered and often got into fights with her neighbors. Increase Mather was born in 1639 and died in 1723. Mather was a minister of Boston's Second Congregational Church. He, like others, believed in witches, but he cautioned against unproved accusations at the Salem witch trials. Mather also helped in the Salem executions. Afterwards, he became president of Harvard College. Cotton Mather was the son of Increase Mather. He was the most respected clergyman in Puritan Massachusetts. Mather was highly educated, and he wrote about social and religious issues. He also believed certain people used witchcraft to help the devil. In October 1692, Governor William Phips of Massachusetts was disgusted with the trial, so he put an end to it. Samuel Sewall, one of the judges during the witch trials, later apologized publicly of all the deaths. Soon the court cleared the names of those who died.